My dear brothers and sisters, it is a pleasure to be with all of you. Let's start with what can be told an incident. It's not really a story, it's a real incident. A lady and her husband with two daughters, this was in the mid 70s, when her younger daughter just finished school and started college, her older daughter was finishing up her college, was diagnosed with the breast cancer. As you guys know, breast cancer is the largest killer in the Western Hemisphere and certainly in the United States of America. So she got all the chemotherapy, all the surgery, but despite that, the doctor said that she would be living possibly a maximum of only 2 years. Obviously, that's not a very nice thing to hear, but obviously the doctors had to speak the truth. One fine Sunday morning, while reading a paper, she found a small advertisement which said, the University of Pittsburgh is conducting trials in meditation for cancer patients. The whole advertisement was in very small fonts, but below that was a big disclaimer. Even a blind could read that this is not a treatment of cancer, this is just a trial. As you all know, this is a country where medical legal claims are important and people want to avoid that. So the main advertisement was in a smaller font, but the disclaimer was big. So she started going to this 12 weeks class of meditation where they took 12 patients. 6 of them were taught meditation. All of them had stage 4 breast cancer. 6 of them was taught meditation. 6 of them were taught sham meditation. So what is sham meditation? As you guys know, in medical literature, whenever you do a trial, you have to have people who are actually going what the trial is doing. And you need to have another group, which we call the control group, and they undergo what looks similar to what the main trialists are going through, but actually is a sham, because only then you know if your experiment that you are doing is working or not. So we had 6 patients who were sham and 6 patients who actually underwent meditation, which includes deep breathing techniques called Pranayam, which all of you know. And we'll go through some of these today. Dhyana, Dharana, Pratyahar, they went through all this. So the rest is history. That's where it started in the Western medicine of trying meditation in clinical practice. So what happened? That's very interesting to note. All the people who were in sham meditation, other than 2 people, as expected, died within 4 years. And 1 person died around 4.5 years, and the other lady died by the 6 years. So everybody was dead. In the meditation group, nobody died. The first person who died was in her 8th year after diagnosis and after starting meditation. Most of them lived over 12 years. The last one died almost around 12 to 13 years. So the question was, the scientists wanted to find out if this was just by chance or if this was true. And they did a bunch of tests, a bunch of other investigations, and what they found was indeed completely changed medicine. They found that there was blood cells in our body called the natural killer cells, whose function is to go and eat up the cancer cells. Their function increased 150 times. My dear brothers and sisters, some of you might know who are in the medical field, that we still have a drug today called Herceptin, which costs over $100,000. That doesn't increase the natural killer cell function even twice. Whereas your own body has the capacity to protect you, whether it is from cancer, whether it is from COVID, for over 150 times, thanks to this natural killer cells. Now, what is the secret that we are missing? That has been elucidated for the last 20 years, that there's been extensive research. To put it shortly, this is how I would describe it in one short word is, it's like you have a broken Toyota and that can drive from place A to place B, while basically you have a Tesla which can drive by itself, but you're driving it like a broken Toyota, which can hardly drive from one place to the other. So you have to understand that if we can create a self-driving machine in 50, 60 years of automobile industry, or maybe approximately 100 years since the first car came out, imagine the machine that you and I are, created by God or nature, whatever you want to call it, which lived on this earth for 4 million years, and how powerful that can be. So the unfortunate part is we think ourselves to be really poor, useless, weak. We can't do much. I mean, what can I do? God has given me all this suffering. And that's where the problem lies, that we are extremely powerful. We can do almost anything that we feel like or we want to. Obviously not bad things, only good things. And but we lack an understanding of the power that we have and the power that every human being has within himself. And that's where yoga comes. Maharishi Patanjali, the person who actually wrote down the yoga guidelines, that's what he says in his yoga treatise, that is Patanjali Yoga Sutra. He never even talks about God, divinity, anything. He just talks of the human body. He just says how powerful your own body is. So this is nothing magic. This is nothing metaphysics. This is actual science. The tragedy is modern science for over 2000 years in the development of medicine had completely neglected it. And in the last 15 to 20 years, thanks to those brilliant scientists who don't practice yoga, who don't know what yoga is, some of them don't even know what India is or what Indian culture is. But they are just physician scientists. They work blindly just to find out what the truth is. They were not biased by knowing yoga. They were not biased by being in India. They are not biased by friends or family who understands yoga. But like a physician scientist, as medical research needs to be, completely unbiased, found out a ton of things. And that's what we are going to discuss today. Now, the first thing to understand is our brain likes to think negatively, and I'll tell you why. If you have a nice evening today, you have a good party, or somebody says a good thing about you, your son or your daughter says nice things about you, or your spouse or consort says nice things about you, how long do you think you'll remember? Few days, it's gone. But if your boss scolds you or you have a bad time, you might remember it the rest of your life. So why is that? Why is the brain negative? Why does brain make memory of negative things? The reason is this. If the brain did not do that, you and I would not have been on this earth. Some other species would have roamed the earth. The fact that our brain picks up negative things and takes steps to correct it is the reason why not some other species, but human being is roaming around the earth. So what do I mean by that? So now you're living in your apartment or your house. You get up in the morning, meet up with your friend, family, or do whatever you feel like. That was not the story for the last 2 million years. When you got up in the morning, you might face a saber-toothed tiger, or you might face an elephant, or you might face a large python trying to get into your cave. So you had two options. You either have to fight it and kill it, or you have to escape for your life. So it's fight or flight. So when you do see a rope, the reason the brain thinks it's a snake till you go and relook at it and find that it's actually a rope is because the brain needs to save you in case it is a snake. And that is the reason why you and I and our predecessors existed, and you or I are living on this earth. So this negative attitude of the brain is most essential for our day-to-day living till now. But unfortunately, it is no more important now because we are living in a civilized society. If I get angry on you, if I am jealous of you, If I am unhappy that both me, I am better than you, but still you're progressing better than me, I can get angry on you, but I can't tell you anything. I'm not a dinosaur, so I just can't go and eat you up like one dinosaur did to the other. So, what is happening? This negative brain function is inflicting injury on my own self. What happens is in my subconsciousness, I continuously ruminate this negative things and I cause release of a bunch of hormones that damages my brain, that damages my heart, leads to cancer. These are called stress hormones. And today, thanks to medicine again, we know the exact genetic pathway by which stress causes activation of over 300 genes that causes your heart to have a heart attack, that blocks the blood vessels to our heart, leading to heart attack, that makes your heart go super fast so you can die out of it. And that is called sudden cardiac death. In fact, since the time I was talking to you, which is almost 10-15 minutes now, at least every 2 minutes, somebody in America has died. So you have more than 350,000 people dying in America out of what is known as sudden cardiac death. So in this 15 to 16 minutes, at least 8 to 10 people in America have died by what is known as sudden cardiac death. So stress is a thing that affects every one of us. It affects our normal living. It makes us diseased. Obviously, as I talked about heart disease, it causes heart disease. It causes you to have a heart attack. It causes you to have sudden cardiac death. It causes you to have cancer. Now, whether it actually causes cancer or not, there is some controversy, but most oncologists, the specialists who treat cancer, believe that stress actually can produce at least certain cancers, if not all. But however, what is completely known scientifically is if you do have cancer, the chance of your living is way lessened in patients with stress. And that's where meditation plays a role in preventing death and prolonging life in metastatic cancer. There have been hundreds and thousands of studies taking prostate cancer patients in males, breast cancer patients in females, lung cancer patients with stage 4 lung cancer who are supposed to live for 6 months, stage 4 breast cancer who are supposed to live for 2 years, stage 4 prostate cancer who are supposed to live for 2 years, and they lived for over a decade when they practice meditation, change in lifestyle, yoga, appropriate diet. So what is exactly going on? How can you change your brain? So before going to that, let's talk a little bit of the Patanjali's concept of the mind. So it's important to understand that mind in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, the concept of mind, or what has also been explained by Gautama Buddha, it's interesting, indeed interesting. Most of you who are in medical science will agree with me. This man, just sitting under a tree for 12 days, has explained how our brain works. And today, after 2,000 years of medicine after him, after Gautama Buddha, we unfortunately haven't really been able to change what he said. We may have added some sophisticated names to the process. The process of how our mind works is exactly as he stated. So in short, before I describe different parts of yoga and how they affect the mind and how they change it, let's talk a little bit without going into much detail. The amount of knowledge or information that we have is vast, but I'll just try to give you a short overview. So basically, we have the buddhi or the intellect. This intellect has helped us discriminate. So whether it's a snake or whether it's a rope, you use with the help of this buddhi or intellect. And then you have something called manas. Manas means memory. So you have memory. So the unfortunate part is, as I said, we live in the past. We live because, oh, our boss did this to me. He's a bad guy. Oh, that guy, my next door neighbor, has a better car than me. Oh, that friend of mine got a promotion and I did not. all these frivolous things in life comes from memory because we live in the past. Now, past cannot be changed. So let's do something. Let's think about the future. Can you change your future? No, because you can only dream of a future that might happen, that might not happen. So what yoga says is, and that's what Pratyahar and Dharana is keep away from this. Dharana is mindfulness. You must have had tons of stories about mindfulness. Mindfulness is just one of the 8 steps of yoga. So it's nothing new or brand new or that first time came in this world. Unfortunately, a lot of people in this country have had their whole career made of mindfulness, and that's the only thing they know. They don't understand yoga, so they don't understand that mindfulness is just a small part, one of the 8 steps of yoga. So dharana means you're concentrating on the present because you're the boss. You decide what to do. Now, what happens when you reflect back and start negative thinking? Is that a problem? It's not a problem, but you can overcome it. Why? It's not a problem because, as I told you, for 4 million years, that's what we did. Now, how do we change it? So we now know scientifically what is known as brain's neuroplasticity. If you practice meditation and yoga, which is both asanas and postures, as Yogini Kalijima shows, and as you practice meditation with her, what you basically do is you change your brain circuits. So let me give you an example. Suppose both you and I go to a beautiful sunset, and both of us see the beautiful, nice yellow-orange color as the sun is setting on the ocean. So do you think that you and I are seeing the same color? Unfortunately, no. We are not. Because it might take, say, 200 brain cells, which are called neurons inside my brain, to interpret the color. And it might take, say, 350 brain cells or neurons in your brain to interpret the color. So what I'm seeing a little more yellowish, you may be seeing a little more orangish. But to both of us, because of the nominal difference, we don't understand the difference. We both call it yellow or orange or whatever. Same things happens to the mind. The glass may be half full or the glass may be half empty. If my brain neurons are meant to fire in a way that I always see the glass empty, I will always see it empty. It doesn't matter what you tell me. Till I practice meditation and teach my brain, my friend, the glass actually is half full. And we now know using microelectrodes inside brain cells. For example, let me give you an example. They did a trial with young Hungarian kids who were born in foster homes. And they did PET scan, MRI of their brains, and they found the lowermost part of the brain is called Amygdala Hypothalamus, which deals with emotion. And they're the part of the brain that we got from our ancestors, the reptiles. So that is the part of the brain you still share with a crocodile or a snake, and the same brains that dinosaur also had. So they found these people had huge amygdala because they were abused throughout their childhood. They never had a good lifestyle. And so they had a huge amygdala. Their hypothalamus was lighting up when they used PET scan and functional MRI to see their brain. Now, these guys were taught meditation. In 4 weeks of meditation, they found that the amygdala lighting up was way reduced. In meditators who have been meditating from 2 to 5 years on a regular basis, who have been practicing yoga along with pranayama, along with meditation, you hardly find the amygdala even lighting up. In Hindu and Buddhist monk, they don't even find amygdala because it doesn't light up. So it is important to understand that which part of the brain you need to activate is on you. And that's what Yoga Patanjali, Maharishi Patanjali says, you need chitta, or the awareness. Unless you are aware, unless your chitta is excited and activated for you to decide what you want, your brain will control you. So you are no different than a snake and a reptile or a lower animal. Based on Patanjali, you are next to divine itself. You are divine and you can change yourself, get the divinity inside you by practicing yoga. Now it's your wish and my wish if I still want to be a reptile and behave like a reptile, or I have to behave like a man on the path of divinity. So you have to change your brain. When you do pranayama, basically what you're doing is you're increasing the oxidative energy to your blood cells. Let's take the example of what we are facing now, COVID. COVID is an unknown virus. Our body does not know about COVID. So how does the body protect against COVID? As I said, we have got the 4 million years of experience. We have faced thousands and thousands of COVID because we used to walk around in jungles naked, lived with bats. So nothing like this should be bothering us. But it is. Why? Because our immunity today in this society has two parts. One is called the innate immunity, which is the basic immunity that protects us from thousands of viruses and bacteria all around us, and adaptive immunity. Now, because the body might not have known COVID, so body does not have any adaptive immunity. Body uses innate or the basic immunity to protect against COVID. Now, when you are locked down at home, you have depression, you have anxiety, people sometimes have panic attack, and all of them actually open the gates for you to have more infection, like a viral infection like COVID, because your immunity is severely depressed. And this is based on medical science, not based on any emotion or being a supporter of yoga or meditation or practicing that myself. So if your immunity is depressed, you're opening the floodgates for things like COVID to get in, completely enslave your body, and by suppress your immunity. And by the time you know that you've been completely enslaved by an alien virus and you start hitting back, you hit back so hard that you kill yourself. People dying from COVID are not dying because the bug is killing it or the virus is killing it. They're dying because their body is overreacting. There's overreaction, there's overproduction of a bunch of chemokines and cytokines, which you might, putting in simple terms, they're just a bunch of chemicals, basically, like interleukin 6. So the short story is, meditation and yoga has been shown. There's a paper as late as 214 that shows in 2014, 2016, that innate immunity is improved to a large extent in people practicing meditation. So there's a big chance that people like you and me, our chance of getting COVID, people who have practiced meditation for a long time, is way less than a normal person living a normal life, locked down inside their home, getting anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and obviously a fall in the immunity. And the funny thing is, you guys don't even believe it. There's been a bunch of study that shows, as I just told you, that COVID does not kill. It's you kill yourself, because the body, after getting enslaved by COVID, gets completely suppressed, because COVID, man, it's a bad bug. It manages to suppress the immunity. But when the body comes back, it fails to modulate the return attack. So what happens is, the return attack is so violent that the body kills itself by damaging the heart, damaging the lungs. And it is mediated by something called interleukin 6. And I don't know how many of you may have read newspapers also, that there are drugs now being tried to prevent interleukin 6 from doing this virulent, what is known as the cytokine storm. But there are tons of studies by medical science that by the practice of meditation, you can control the dysmodulation of interleukin 6. There's not one, there are 5, 6 different studies. And I can share those literature with you. So it is very important to understand this, that what we do by yoga and meditation is much, much more powerful than it is. As I just said, it's just like you believe you're driving a broken Toyota, but a machine that lived on this earth for 4 million years must have faced billions of such bugs like COVID while we were living in the jungle, going along naked, not living in a conscious society like that. And nothing happened. That's why we are still the dominant species on earth. But you got to change your body to that powerful state. And that's what meditation does. That's what meditation makes you. Let's talk about some of the other aspects of meditation, Dhyan, Dharana, and Samadhi. Now, people who practice, we can't discuss everything today, but obviously we can do more of this in the future. As you know, there are different brain waves. We have what's called beta waves. So I'm talking to you. In a normal person, if somebody does an EEG in me, you will find the whole of my brain, it will have what is known as a beta wave, which is very fast wave. Swami Vivekananda explained it's like a monkey's brain. It's like a monkey jumping from one tree to the other, always busy thinking of more greed, more money, more how can I career-wise, sex, and all sort of things, some of which are important. But we spend more time thinking of these things than what we need to. While the part of my brain that is seeing you through my eyes, that is area 18, 19, the back of the brain, is very quiet. So brain is a paradoxical organ. The part of the brain that is most active is actually quiet. And the rest of the brain, which is not active, is jumping like a monkey from one place to other. So if you put a EEG electrode into my brain, you'll see most of my brain has bizarre wave patterns, which are basically meaningless because those part of the brain is inactive. Whereas the active part of the brain, the back of my head, area 18, 19, my so-called visual center, that is active because I have to see when I'm talking to you through the Zoom. Now, when I'm talking to you, I need to relate what I'm talking to from my memory, from what I thought, from my experience. How do I do that? So I need this place above my ears on both the side called the temporal lobe. That is called area 41, 42. Because the temporal lobe is the hardware. So you have a brand new computer that doesn't have Microsoft Word. You bring a document, the software will ask you, the computer will, it may be the world's latest computer, but it cannot open the Word document because it will ask you, where is the software? What should I use? If you use the software, if you have Microsoft, you can open it. If you don't have Microsoft, you cannot open it. Similarly, my brain has to see what the hell am I doing? So my brain will send message to area 41, 42, which again, if I put an electrode in the area 41, 42, it's quiet, completely quiet. Why is it quiet? It's quiet because it has to be active. It has to know what is going on. And it has to relay back to my eyes what I'm seeing. Because eyes does not see. Eyes is just a bunch of receptors. It's like a cup of receptors, which it's a nerve which picks up impulses and gives it to my brain. It's my brain which is seeing. It's my brain which is talking. It's my brain which is relating to what I'm doing with you guys. So whatever you do with your brain depends on what you train your brain to do. The tragedy in us is that we are slaves of our brain, but we are meant to be the masters. So people who have meditated for long, as you know, in this country, most people 65, 70 years of age, by the time they are 70, 75, almost 30 to 35% of the population languish in nursing home. They have what is called dementia, Alzheimer's dementia and other types of dementia. They don't know their name. They don't know where they stay. They don't know who their son or wife or children are. Whereas in 2010, it was clearly shown if you practice meditation for 5 years, if you do Dhyana, if you do Dharana, if you do Pratyahar, you don't even have to go to Samadhi. That's the very super powerful state. You can actually make your brain grow. Yes, you didn't hear it wrong. You can make your brain grow for over 1 inch. The cerebral cortex, the topmost, the most powerful part of the brain that actually makes us human. None of the animals have that. Our closest ancestors, the orangutan, has a small, thin layer. We have like 100 times bigger brain. That's the cerebral cortex. And imagine that today for dementia, we have 3 medicines. None of them really work. They're as good as a placebo. They're useless. But just the practice of meditation, and those of you who are practicing yoga and practicing deep breaths and practicing dhyana, dharana, you will be never having dementia ever in your life, ever. You have people in India who are 95, 100 years old. They remember everything. Their memory is like a video. Swami Vivekananda, one of the most powerful yogi in India, once was told to read a book in England, which was 500 pages. He just flipped over the pages. So the professor who was sitting in front of him asked him, he felt hurt that I'm giving him my book and this guy just flips over the pages. He doesn't even read it. So he asked him, so you don't think it's interesting? You didn't even read it? Vivekananda said, yes, I've done it. I'm finished. So he asked him from different pages and Vivekananda repeated word by word. And that's not a story. That has been chronicled. So you have to understand that you have a very powerful brain that can do almost anything that you like. It is an instrument, as Byron said, it is the oracle of God. So how you use that oracle depends on you. You can use it just like a reptilian brain to somehow exist in this universe, live, get birth, somehow struggle through life and die. Or you can be as powerful as divinity itself, and that depends on you. So, so the question is so the brain is a super powerful organ. And as I said, so Vivekananda had this brilliant memory. So it's not only the memory part of it. What we have to understand, the crux of yoga is how to change yourself from humanity to divinity. And you can do it. See, what we fail to understand is we are part and parcel of this universe. I am not Indranill. You are not X, Y, and Z. Because in this universe, these are temporary classification that we have created, what in yogic terminology is known as ahankara, means I am Indranill, I am a doctor, I do this, I have done this greatness, I have done this blah, blah, blah. I have done nothing. I don't even exist. And this is not, again, emotion. This is not some stupid yoga talking metaphysics and nonsense. This is what today's science also says. The whole universe is a boiling pot of atom, electron, proton, neutron, quarks, and thousands of subatomic particles. So you are made of the same thing that a rock is made of. You're made of the same thing that stars are made of. You are made of the same thing that the universe is made of. It's you and I that have created this barrier, and this barrier, unfortunately, and we made this cage, we made this jail, and we put ourselves inside that jail, and now we are crying, God is so bad, divinity is so bad, X is bad, Y is bad, my neighbor is bad, my boss is bad, my family is bad, that I have to suffer because of everyone. You're suffering because of no one. There is no God who has that much time to sit on a Sunday to give you all the bad things that is known to you. All that bad things that we get is from ourselves, from our manas, from our memory, from our negative thoughts. The moment we change our negative thoughts to positive thoughts, the moment we reform our brain, exactly, you didn't hear it wrong. You can actually completely reform your brain. Actually, there's enough of research now that says, enough of evidence have accumulated that just 4 weeks practice of yoga with light asanas, with meditation, you can completely change your brain. People who seem to be depressed for no reason or for minimal reasons, I wouldn't say no reason, there are enough things in this earth to make you depressed. There are enough things in this earth to make you anxious. There's enough things in this earth to make you panic. But there's no reason you should, how you behave depends on you. Because if you're depressed, that doesn't take care of the situation. That doesn't make the situation different. If you're anxious, that doesn't make the situation different. Because if you're born on earth, you have to go through these things. Today, Jesus Christ was burned. He is God himself. He was burned. And there are thousands. So if you're born on this earth, you have to go through material existence, and material existence has its problem. And while people were putting in screws inside him, Jesus Christ shouted loud at God, "Excuse these people, they do not know what they're doing." Imagine the pain. If somebody gives you a slap, you'll feel like going and hitting him back. A man who was lifted and the screws were put throughout his body, he is crying to God that these people do not know what they're doing. Excuse them. So why is this? This is because anybody born taking birth in this material planet that is Earth has to go through ups and downs, has to go through anxiety, has to go through depression, has to go through panic. But you don't have to be taken by them. You don't have to be getting, let me put it that way, you don't have to be carried by this. You can change your living style so that these do not affect you. And that's what Buddha said, that pain and suffering is mandatory. Because as I said, if somebody like Jesus Christ, the God himself, had so much pain, and there was Swami Vivekananda, he couldn't even feed his family for many days after his father died. Name it, there are tons of saints who have gone through innumerable sufferings. Because the material earth gives you sufferings. How you deal with it? Do you want to deal with it like a simple human, or do you want to deal with it like a divine person? That's on you. That's why Buddha said, Gautama Buddha, the great Gautama Buddha said that pain is mandatory. Again, I repeat, if you're born on earth, pain is mandatory, but suffering is optional. You, the divine, will decide if you are suffering. It doesn't matter what people do to you. People, when you're born on earth, it doesn't matter what people will do to you. It is how you react to the people. And the good and fortunate thing is that you didn't have to face anything which some of these great people had to face. But if you practice meditation for years, as Patanjali Yoga Sutra says, you can actually change events around you. You will find people are more favorable to you. You will find the universe is more favorable to you. Because remember, you are part and parcel of this universe. You are the most powerful being on earth. If anything that is limiting you, that's you yourself. So the practice of meditation gives you that power. It unleashes the power of superior human being or divinity inside you, so that you decide what sort of events can take place. So that's very important to understand. And as I said, science has proved that even people with cancers who have died, who are possibly the worst lot in this universe, they every day they count their death. They can prolong their life to decades. Who are supposed to die in 6 months, they can prolong their life for decades. I had a lady who once upon a time contacted me. She's no more there, unfortunately, but she died when she's almost 82. She was from San Francisco. She was a nurse who was had HIV. Possibly, I know a lot of you might know, during the 70s, a lot of people got HIV who were dealing with these patients who had blood transfusion, because at that time, HIV was really not known. We didn't know what virus causes HIV. We did not know how it needs to be treated. So even today, we have thousands of patients with HIV, and there are excellent drugs, and these drugs make you, once you are on these drugs, there's not even a single HIV left in your blood. If you do blood tests, even if you do some things like PCR, which can pick up 2 or 3, even if there are 2 or 3 viruses in their blood, even that's negative. But these patients go for a downhill course and they ultimately die. And we don't know why. Even modern science does not know why. But when you teach them meditation, miraculously, you find their lives are changed. They become better. They feel better. So even if the virus is completely gone and you can hardly see a virus, the disease actually continues till you change your mentality, till you change your body, till you change your existence. So what does this? What does this is how you live your lifestyle. A lifestyle where you have vegetarian diet, possibly. A lifestyle where every day you practice yoga and meditation. A lifestyle where you don't harm anybody. You don't have to go around doing good to people, but don't harm anybody. Even a single thought of yours should not harm a fly. And you see the difference, because what you're harming is you're harming yourself. That fly is not a separated thing in the universe. As I said, everything from a fly to universe to the stars, the billions of galaxies, they're all you. The problem is we have to increase our chitta, or our awareness, to understand the vastness that you are. You are not that small being living alone in a small apartment, locked down because of the COVID virus, panicked and anxious and depressed what you're going to do. Maybe tomorrow you'll live or you may not live. Who has the right to kill you if you want to live? Nobody has. But get that power into you, unleash that power into you, and everything, including divinity, will be on your side. And as Buddha said, in this earth, suffering is mandatory. Pain is mandatory, but suffering depends on you. If you don't want suffering, there is no God in this universe that can make you suffer, because you are God yourself, depending on how you live and how you treat others in this life. Namaskar. Yeah, all of them have benefits. For, as I said, Pranayam, Dharana is basically mindfulness. So, as I was explaining to you, you have whatever has happened in the past has happened. You cannot change it now. You can cry over it, but that doesn't change anything. You can plan a grand future, but you're not sure if that's going to happen. But what will certainly happen is what you want to do now, and that's dharana. So, what do you want to do now? This moment is the most important moment in your life, because what you want to do now, you do it now, and even God cannot change it. You have to do it now. So, that's what dharana does. Dharana brings out mindfulness, you bring in breathing. In the Bhagavad Gita, that's why Krishna says, you concentrate on your nostrils. What basically he meant is you concentrate on the breath. And when you concentrate on the breath, you basically you do mindfulness. And when you do mindfulness, what exactly happens is those monkey dancing all around, as I said, the normal human brain is like a monkey dancing all around. So your brain is as good as dead. You think it's living, but no, it's all beta waves. It's all dancing all around like a monkey, or like a clean pond where you can see the bottom of the pond with the clean water, but you're going on throwing stones in that pond. What happens? Can you see the water? Can you see the bottom of the pond? No, you can't, because there's ripples of water all over. So your brain is punctured with hundreds and thousands and millions of ripples, because every second millions of thoughts are coming and creating ripples in your brain. So when you do dharana, basically what you do is you're trying to concentrate, and as you concentrate, you go deeper into meditation and you start creating what is known as alpha waves. And as you practice meditation, you can go into more deeper waves. There are people who are theta waves. Gamma waves is found actually in fetuses. And some Hindu rishis, some Buddhist monks has been found to have even gamma waves, that people who have practiced meditation for many years, they are so much in control that they can take their brain down to gamma waves. So imagine the power. When you're in gamma waves, you're in consort with the whole universe. The universe is there to pass you information, but you have to have a brain that is clean enough to take it. If your brain has a lot of disturbance like ripples, you cannot take anything. So that's what Dharana does in short. I mean, there are more than other things. But since I have to cover the two other things that you asked, so let me talk a little bit of those. So what does pranayama do? So pranayama does a bunch of things. So pranayama is deep breathing, basically. And deep breathing oxygenates your blood. As you know, like things like COVID and a lot of bugs, and there are hundreds and thousands of bugs that is attacking us every minute. Like I'm talking with you, you're listening to me, hundreds and thousands of bugs that are attacking us, and you don't even know about. How are we killing them? By oxidating these bugs. These bugs are taken inside the body, and by using oxygen radical, they are killed. And so pranayama does that. Plus, there are some other concepts that I don't want to bring in today, but I'll just tell you in short because it'll take a little more time to explain. But because the difference between life and death today is that breath. You're breathing, so your life. The same body, you'll have the same body after you die. And the only difference is that body will not be breathing. So there are yoga itself and breathing creates some of the body that we have, and also based on yogic literature, we have actually 7 different body. Though modern medicine has not reached that state, but what we do know at the practical level is that pranayama not only does prevent your body, increases your immunity, but also helps to create alpha waves. For example, when you look up, what we call the supraconscious glands, and you start breathing, you can generate alpha waves in your brain. And as you go deeper and deeper into meditation, you can generate deeper and deeper waves into your brain. Dhyana, as I said, is meditation. Dhyana can do, you can almost write a book on that. What it can do, it can decrease aging. You have people who are 95 years of age, they are 60. Actually, now there is, for the first time, because of yoga, medical science has come for a new term, and that is called biological aging and temporal aging. So what does that mean? So temporarily, that means based on time, you may be 70 or 80 years old based on the date you're born. But biologically, you may be 40. Why? Because it is seen that 10 years of meditation can actually bring down your age biologically by 12 years. And what do you mean by biologically? Means your physical body is as if though you're 80, temporarily, but your physical body is 80 minus 12 or 80 minus 15, that is 65 years of age, or sometimes even smaller. And you can see people in the Himalayas who are 85, 90 years of age, they'll be climbing faster than you and I can do. And I'm half their age. The reason, because that's what yoga does. It decreases aging. As you know, in 2009, there was Nobel Prize by a lady who's in San Francisco, Elizabeth Blackburn, on telomerase. Telomerase is by which we know that we are aging, and meditators have been found that they can have long telomeres which means they can decrease their cellular aging. There's been a ton of studies in cancer patients where telomeres have seen to be increasing in patients who are meditating. So it's too small in a 1 year or a short, in a 1 hour or a short presentation, but there's tons of science between what Dhyan, Dharana, or Pratyahara and Pranayama can do. Yeah, so yeah, I don't think it completely atrophies. Size might change, but it's important to understand that thymus is possibly is as an important place to meditate. So thymus, the gland itself, has got a lot of product that changes the body uh, endocrinological system. Now, people have not really worked to see how thymus gland itself does, but there has been studies on blood levels of hormones and chemicals released by thymus, just like other glands, like pineal glands, melatonin from pineal, which works and how they work. So if your question is there any research directly on the size of the thymus and what it does? There is no research as such on the size of the thymus, but meditation, as we know, causes change in the complete hormonal setup, including hormones relieved by the thymus glands, because calcium metabolism and everything else completely changes. As you know, that normal person, with passage of time, we block our blood vessels like the heart with calcium. And where calcium needs to be, that's the bone, we have less and less calcium. That's why when we grow old, we have bones that get weak. A lot of older people get fractures. But people where we don't need to have calcium, for example, in the heart's blood vessel, there you find a lot of calcium causing, and there's a way to find that out. What we call is using computer tomography, we do what is known as a CAG, whereby we can find out the amount of calcium and then decide whether you're liable to have heart attack or not. So this abnormal metabolism is all reversed in meditation. Nobody has seen the thymus gland itself, but seeing the thymus gland itself doesn't make much of a difference, because what you have to understand is the size really doesn't matter. The function which matters, and the function even with the small speck of gland, and that's the amazing thing, of we as human beings, that we need a very small speck of gland to do enormous amount of things, which is completely unbelievable. Now, because we can change in meditation our life and our biological clock, so most hormones work better, and including thymus. Whether it's thymus, whether it's thyroid, whether it is pineal, all of them work better, because the whole day and night system completely, our biological clock becomes what I would call more effective. I hope that answers your question. So meditation is basically a practice. So what I always tell people is 1 ounce of practice is better than 1 ton of theory. So how much ever you read, how much ever you see videos doesn't matter, because you need to practice. That's why Buddha had said it's a royal path. Even God, so-called God, if that exists, he had to go through that path. You have to go through that path. I have to go through that path. It's a royal path for everybody. So what I would suggest is, once you start practicing, Start practicing whatever, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Giving a time is not important. What is more important is how you prolong your practice. So obviously, when I started practice, I was almost 6 years of age. I could hardly sit for 10, 15 minutes if I remember correctly. But now, if I had no work and if somebody could feed me, I didn't have to go to the hospital. Possibly I could sit throughout the day, multiple hours, because that's the time depends on how long you can sit. And this is a practice, and that's why you need to do asanas too, because asanas makes your body fit to do pranayama. The problem in this country is, I think you guys are really, really lucky that you're following somebody like, I call her Yogini Kaliji, I call her Yogini Kali Ma because she's the mother. Is that she's one of those very, very few who understands the depth of yoga and practices the whole of it, which includes breathing techniques and meditation. 90% of the yoga teachers in this country just teach some asanas, which are as good as just 5% of yoga. 95% of yoga includes exactly what she said, Dharana, Dhyana, Pratyahar, Samadhi, as well as asanas. They're all equally important. Nothing is more important or less important. So meditation is just go on practicing. If you can sit for 5 minutes, great. Try 7 minutes today. If you can take 7 long breaths sitting with your spine erect today, try doing 2 sets of 7 breaths tomorrow. Best time, I would say, is try early in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, or night. If you can do so much, just do twice. I mean, if you're sitting at home, obviously you have time. But if you're not, if you're working, just do twice. What is important to understand is, and that is slowly you will understand as you practice, and that's what I tell everybody. Yoga is not going to the gym at 4 o'clock and doing gym from 4 to 5 o'clock, or going to the gym at 7 o'clock and doing gym from 7 to 8 o'clock. Yoga is 24/7, 365. I am talking with you. I'm still doing yoga because thanks to God, all the great yogis, all the blessings, I can practice yoga while I'm talking to you. A part of my brain can still meditate. And that is the existence you have to be. So you have to remember that you're on the right path. You have a great teacher. Make full use of her and try to be in yoga 24/7, 365. Yoga, my friends, and yoga and meditation. Yeah, you might fix asanas for whatever, 15, 20 minutes, 1 hour, from 4 to 5 or 7 to 8. But that's only 5% of yoga. The rest, 95%, you can slowly try to practice more and more till you're 24 hours, you're actually in yoga. Because yoga is not a practice. Yoga is life itself.